Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Goallounge. We are coming to you live from our Goallounges. This is episode 3, and today we were meant to have a full squad, but one of our members, you can see he's actually missing. I largely think it's because his team had a poor performance on the weekend, but he says it's because power went out.
Yeah,
so I'm not too sure. But apart from that, I'm going to introduce the rest of the squad. We've got Mateus on my right, or otherwise known as Matthew. He is a huge Spurs fan, and he's also made 2 official caps at a Comedy Central performance. He does stand-up comedy, and that's actually why we've got him here, because we thought Tottenham were going to have a bit of a joking start to the season. So let's see what he can give us. We've got Sello, who is our financial investigative journalist, largely because, I mean, we don't know where Man United's money is going, and he's pretty much asking, he's saying, show me the money. That's what's going on there. Where are the signings, Sello? And then we've got Nick, who is Newcastle's self-proclaimed #1 South African fan. He's also got some UEFA, A or C or B or D licenses. Who cares? He just knows his football. And then we've got, lastly, Mr. Wonga. He's got a wicked left foot. He focuses on the development of youth football in South Africa. So if you've got a child who doesn't know how to kick a ball, Wonga can teach him, but only with his left foot, because we all know left footers don't have right feet. And that's pretty much our squad. But let's start with the first game. We're going to talk about the United. Oh, wait, before we talk about anything, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification button, because it helps us generate comments while we're talking. But we're going to go to the first game, and the first game we're going to talk about is none other than the Manchester United versus Crystal Palace game. We might as well start there, because Sello has decided to change his shirt. He's saying, again, it's for Heritage Day, but I think it's got to do with other reasons. Heritage.
Nah, man. It's Heritage Day. I was like, let me just whip out the 2009 Bafana shirt. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with Man United. But yeah, it was a woeful performance from the guys. I don't even know what to say, because I think they were just quite tired. You could see that they haven't trained much, but it's still not a good performance from them. You know what I mean? It's something, you look at City. City also didn't have much of a preseason, similar to us. But they came out all guns blazing. But Man United was just poor on the day. Victor Lindelof is the softest defender I've ever seen in my life. He doesn't, he cost us the game, literally. The first goal, second goal, and third goal, he was involved. He was unlucky with the penalty. That's another topic I think we should have on Goallounge is the whole handball interpretation. I don't know if you saw Southampton got a dubious penalty. Crystal Palace got a dubious penalty.
Yeah. Sello, sorry. Sello, I know we're going to talk about all the dubious penalties, because, I mean, some of them were super harsh and super soft. But from a United perspective, we spoke about it last week. We said, what happens to United, or how does the mood in the camp change if they don't pick up the 3 points starting against Crystal Palace at home? And they didn't do it. And I think right now the conversation that needs to be had is the one where there's the on-field performance and then there's the boardroom performance. And there's something clearly that's not aligning in this United camp at the moment. And I think it was reflective on the performance. I don't know, Nick, what did you think about the game?
To be very honest with you, in terms of Man United, it was just that same old sort of nonsense that they had pre-lockdown. And it was, funny enough, probably just as bad as Newcastle versus Brighton, to be very honest with you. I mean, I didn't think that could be possible. So it was good to be at the bar watching Man United lose 3-1 after I'd witnessed that nonsense the day before. But I had high hopes for you guys, Sello. I don't know, I don't know. I think I saw someone tweet the other day, surely they're going to panic by now. Surely there has to be a panic buy waiting for you guys to try and sort out whatever you can salvage from a very poor start. I just think you're missing so much, and that was proof. The proof was in the pudding against let's be honest, a very average Crystal Palace team. Credit where credit's due. They won the game, but you're talking about a team that wants to finish in the top 3. I don't know. The only silver lining is that Van der Beek looks like a bit of a player. I think you've got to sign in there. But
yeah, he looks like he's drinking whatever Van Nistelrooy was drinking in Holland back then. It just looks like he's going to be at the right place at the right time. The ball's just going to fall to his feet. It looks like one of those annoying players in a United jersey, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, so Sello,
I completely agree with you, Nick. Yeah, man, it's not the best way to start. And as Claudio has said, the club looks very much disjointed. When you bring in signings into a club, signings bring in fresh energy, some competition in certain areas. So the fact that we've only got one signing was not good. And even we're on Thursday now since 4 or 5 days since the loss, and there's been no movement within the transfer window, whereas other clubs have already signed this week. But United is lagging behind. We've been chasing Jadon Sancho the whole transfer window, but there's been no progress. We should have moved on to another signing already, but
Are you guys doing that funding? Did you see that thing?
The GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. Jadon Sancho move. Come on, guys.
Sello's put in, I'm sure.
Yeah, man.
I didn't, but it's
Put money there,
guys.
you put money.
Yeah, no, Sello. So what I'm thinking is that, I mean, there's all this talk about Sancho. We know he's a great player. At the moment, he's one of Dortmund's key players. You guys have been chasing him all window. But there's a lot of talk at the moment at United saying, and when I keep referring to the Liverpool transfer strategy, this is one of the things. They're saying now they can't bring players in before they let some go because they've got a huge wage bill that they're trying to release. And I mean, there's talk about James leaving for Leeds. There's the Chris Smalling thing to Roma still hasn't happened. I know the man is training by himself at the moment. Then you've also got Lindegaard, who they're trying to get off their books, but apparently he's content to stay. So you've got a bit of that situation where there's no point bringing players in when you still can't get the current ones out. So you're in a bit of a tricky situation. But if you're looking at the game itself, I mean, we all know you're talking about Sancho up front, but your weakness is still at the back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying is that Lindelof is too soft. Literally, Eric Bailly needs to start. He needs to be given a run of games where he's installed to play with Maguire. So at least yesterday, the day before yesterday, on Tuesday, the League Cup, he played with Maguire at centre at the heart of defence, and they played quite well together, At least Bailly is a bit more physical. He's got a bit more pace than Lindelof. So at least that's a different type of player playing along Maguire, because Maguire and Lindelof are quite similar. They've got similar attributes. Obviously, Maguire's better in the air. Lindelof is reads the game a bit better, but he's just soft, man. You know what I mean? Like, how can Wilfried Zaha literally just be bump you out of the way? So yeah, the defense obviously isn't great. But I think that we do have a player within the squad that can already give a bit of an improvement on the current centre-back pairing. And also, they need to bring back Wan-Bissaka in the starting lineup. At least he's more assured at the back than Fosu Mensah. I think it was just because Wan-Bissaka was in quarantine and couldn't train with the team until a week ago.
Yeah. Wonga, what are your thoughts about this game, this Palace game, United game?
Yeah, look, I think I'm pretty much the same as Nick. It was, you can't say much about it. It was literally the same Man United before pre-lockdown. It's very difficult to say what, the problem is with them. Eh? The one thing that irritated me the most is watching that, what's his name? Bruno Fernandes. I think there was a time, I didn't see it during the game though, but I saw highlights of him. I think it was the ball was going out for a corner. I remember faintly in my head, but not a corner. It was somewhere. It happened somewhere on the touchline, and Bruno Fernandes dives. Absolutely no need to dive, but he dives and makes it look like the guy kicked him. And it's so clear when you're watching the replay that this guy wasn't even touched. It was even in fast, not even slow motion, but it being played quickly, you could see. And
he made real time look slow. That's how hectic the dive was.
Yeah, for me, and look, if that guy was focusing his energy on getting a goal for the team instead of trying to win a free kick on the touchline, I think United would have probably got something there. It's something I just couldn't understand in my head. It's even now, I just remember it now in Sello speaking.
Yeah, I mean they were very slow in their build-up, weren't they?
Yes.
Like
I
everything
think
seemed
everyone.
like they were lacking purpose. They were lacking something to go
Yes.
forward. There was nothing. And I suppose like when we move on to the next game, which is the Arsenal game, and that's the difference between the two managers. I think it's a combination of Ole being slightly. I mean, we know he's not a great tactician. We know he's a good man manager. But when things aren't going according to plan, he doesn't know how to change the game. And I think the only thing that worked in United's favor was the fact that there were no fans in the stadium. That's the only thing on Saturday that was okay. Hopefully, if they pick up a positive result in the coming weekend, they can then forget about this one. Matt, overall, what is your assessment?
Yeah, look, I mean, United for a while haven't really been. Every time you watch them, they never seem to all 11 players on the field have a great day, and that used to be the hallmark of the United sides. It was that everyone on the field would do 110%, even if they. And that was what Ferguson kind of brought to it, was they could have players that were a little bit worse than the rest. But the whole team would just do their jobs and a bit more, and they would, steamroll sides. And now you never seem to see them all having a great day. They have a couple of players who are doing it right, and then others just having an absolute mess. But for me, the biggest question is, how long are they going to keep giving Solskjaer the bye just because of who he is? You remember how quickly United fans have turned on every other manager they've had since Ferguson. Moyes got basically a couple of days' grace before they hated him. Mourinho the same. They gave him a couple of months, and then they were all at his neck. And Solskjaer's done. You could look at some of the individual performances that have happened under Solskjaer, and you would have thought there'd be a lot more United fans up in arms. But they still see him as that baby-faced assassin. Still, it's like when you look at your own kid, and you still see them as that cute little thing, even when he's setting fire to your own car. Like they can't like let him off. So they're going to keep. He'll get them relegated, and they'll still give him a new contract.
There's a bit of an issue at the moment where it seems as though the United board aren't backing him, because there's clearly players that he wants, and it's a combination of him not being backed and the chairman not knowing how to negotiate. And then they also, for them, it's comfortable because they almost in a situation where I'm worried that they're going to head the direction that Arsenal are going, where they're just content for top 4. And they're not going to put, look, Wonga putting faces now because he's like, hey, we're doing all right now. But I mean, it took a long time. So I'm worried that from a United perspective, that they're relying on what the institution is as opposed to where they want to go, and they're content with the 4th spot. The reason they're happy with the Solskjaer is that he's not going to question the board anytime soon. He's not going to be outspoken. They got rid of Mourinho because he was saying, listen, there's a lot of shit happening in this club. You guys aren't backing me at all. So that's the one thing though. We got to be like, watch this space. Interesting to see how this unfolds. That's why the results are going to be crucial for next stage. Yeah.
Even like I was like, even to answer Matt's question as well, like how long they're going to back him for. But every time I just remember just from the press conferences. I mean, especially when Solskjaer after that, you may had a good round when he came in, and then after that it started slumping, and then everyone started questioning his job security, and he kept on saying, every time they asked him about that, he kept on saying him and the board have this vision, and they are going to stick to it. They have a plan and they're going to stick to it. They understand the results that are coming in, that were coming in at the moment, and they just understand where they are headed, and this what is happening right now, right there with the club, is sort of something that they expect. This phase that is happening is sort of what they expect for now. So for me, when people ask the question, I honestly believe, because of that, I believe that Solskjaer is going to be there for a long time. I don't think Man United want to cut. They're actually doing the same thing they do with Ferguson. They're literally going to back him, and I think you're going to see him there for, I'd say, close to 10 years. I genuinely think you guys are going to see him there for 10 years.
No, man. Like Solskjaer, that's the thing with Solskjaer, is that he lets himself down with in-game management, right? Okay, cool. The one thing that last season that he did very well is against the big teams, right? So we did well against the big teams. We we beat City twice. We beat Arsenal once, and they beat us. And then obviously we beat Tottenham twice, and so forth. We did well against the big teams. But
also, how did they beat the big teams though? They beat the big teams by playing with the small team mentality in a way, sitting deep, denying them on a counter.
That's counter-attacking football. There's something called counter-attacking football. And you have certain, you know what I mean? Against Tottenham, we outclassed Tottenham. You know what I mean? So there was no counter-attacking against Tottenham. We only played a counter-attacking system against Man City. That's the only team we play counter-attacking against. You know what I mean? So they won against bigger teams with a certain system. So he did well in those matches against big teams, but against the smaller teams, he struggled. So as you saw again on Saturday, that's where he struggled against a smaller team. And you know, it's a matter of just his tactics to start off with. You know, starting Dan James on the right wasn't I don't think was the right decision. But I think also he was trying to send a message to the board and saying, hey, listen, I'm gonna start Welsh Sonic on the right hand side. But that's not even Dan James' best position. Dan James' best position is on the left wing, you know. That's where he's played his best football for Man United last season, and that's where he plays for Wales as well. It's coming from the left, cutting in. You know, on the right hand side, he looks, you know, he doesn't cut it on the right side. So I think that was Solskjaer trying to give a message to say, hey guys, listen, I need a right back. I mean, I need a right wing. You know, I don't think he'll you know, if he has poor results, no man, the club will definitely fire him, because what the club wants is to, obviously, as you said, is to get into top 4, which is what the board is now comfortable with, which is quite sad, because the fans want, you know, a team just to challenge, you know what I mean? And and the signings, it's not about Jadon Sancho alone. It's about making signings. You know, even if they got someone else in that position, we would be happy. It's about getting signings, getting reinforcements into the team. You know, it's like, you know, Spurs fans were angry. What do? They sign Bale and Reguilon. You know what I mean? So then the fans are now happy. It's a good mood. It's a good vibe. It's a good energy within the team. You know, Spurs against Everton and Spurs against Southampton, 2 different teams. You know, there's already a different change in mood. You know what I mean? You know, obviously it will end at some point, because you know how Jose is.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We can keep talking about United for like the next 2 hours, but we've given them 17 minutes of my life, and that's far too much for a guy like me. So we're going to move over to the next game. That's going to be Arsenal-West Ham. Arsenal-West Ham, similar situation to what we had at the Man United-Crystal Palace game, where they're both hosting the game. They're both playing against a team managed by a manager who's very familiar within the league. And yet the result was different. Why is this, Wonga? How are you feeling? Why is it different? What did Arsenal do that United couldn't do to get the result across the line?
To be honest with you, I think to be very honest, I think we're very fortunate to get out there with the win. But we did. And how it happened, I can't really put my finger on it, to be honest with you. But what I can see that's different with Arsenal when I watch them play is that I think there's a bit of more of a purpose behind their playing. And when I say that, you can see that this is what the coach has taught them. I mean, not that it was taught them, but he's putting the idea on them, and everyone's agreeing with it. Everyone understands what needs to be done, and they are trying to implement it. And you can see that, because what reaffirmed that for me as well was watching them play yesterday, last night against. I know we're not jumping on, the EFL, but watching the EFL as well, you saw it's literally the same thing. You can see everyone, despite there being, I think he made 7 changes. Everyone understands what needs to be done, and the players are getting in there. I think that's also a good thing as well. I think he's also looking at the characters of the players. He's not just getting a player because they're good. He's actually looking at the characters of the player. Will he do what I tell him to do? Because everyone out there is, I think it's superb. And the new defender, Gabriel. Oh, geez, it's so nice watching a defender that can defend.
He's a good player, but if there's one thing I'm going to be critical about him when I was watching the game against West Ham, is that his decision-making with the ball in the air isn't as great as what it should be. He is a young player, but it's almost like he's second-guessing. So his timing with the head wasn't too great, but everything else is pretty good. Yeah,
that's for me. That's with the header, that's fine. But for me, what's very important is the 1v1s. And I think with in a corner, I think yes, the headering does become a bit of a thing. But with David Luiz, like when he played, it was get in the box and he doesn't get the ball. Okay, fine, I'll just chip the guy. Okay, penalty. Then I did it a couple of times. And that for me, that erratic thinking, I just can't deal with it. And I think Gabriel, for me, I'm a bit easy watching the game. So it's much more, it's pleasurable watching the game now. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you think the game, to be fair, I think Tierney has also just shown how important it is to this Arsenal squad, because he got injured just before the game, and they had to put in Kolasinac or whatever his name is to replace him. And I think there was a bit of an imbalance there when he wasn't playing.
Yes, no, you're right. Yeah, thanks for bringing that one up. Yeah, you're definitely right. Tierney also I liked him a lot when I watched him first play. I think he had a good first game, and I would also put him in every squad. That starts. I'll maybe starting lineup, and yeah, having him out the squad, yeah, you could see it is a big difference. Kolasinac, he's just not too sure about him. One day you're gonna get a good game, like he plays brilliantly, and bombing forward, putting in the crosses. But then one day is just flat, just nowhere to be found. But Tierney, I think, there's a bit of more consistency in him.
I think, Wonga, for your sake, when you start winning games and you're not the better team, I think that's a really good sign. Listen, it is game 2, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I think Liverpool, Claudio, you can speak for them. There were points in the season last year where you were winning 1-0 and 2-1, and you were just getting over the line. And at the end of the day, you create your own luck. So if you can start winning matches and not necessarily playing well, I think that's a good sign. So hopefully they can continue. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. But the one thing I want to say is the one thing that does bother me a bit about Arsenal is you can see it's very similar to what Man City do when they pass the ball back to the keeper. The two, I think the right back and the left back, I'll call them, because they're playing with those wingers as well. So the left back and the right back, they obviously open up wide. They literally on the goal line. They open up on the goal line. You can see it always happens. The one thing I just don't like is every time they're playing it back to the keeper. At times it looks like, even yesterday as well, I think there was a time they nearly got caught out with it as well. Yeah. But it's worked a bit. I can see that, but it's only 2 yards. It's 2 games actually. Next thing you know, it's going to be 10 games. How many times will that thing fall to you?
2 games in, and you can see there's some sort of game plan. And I think that's the difference between the Arsenal at the moment and the United. But one thing I like towards the end of last season for Arsenal, what I couldn't understand was why Lacazette wasn't getting much of a game time, or even under Mr. Slytherin House, what's his name? Emery, that I couldn't understand why Lacazette wasn't playing. I was like, the man's a finisher. But when I watched him on Saturday against West Ham, the man's decision-making is absolutely shambles. Like everything else, he's really good in the 6-yard box. He scores goals. But his build-up play is poor. He doesn't know when to make the pass. His running's a bit off. And I don't know if that's because he hasn't been playing, but he clearly has a connection with Aubameyang. But apart from that, he did everything wrong on Saturday. He got his goal. But then they brought in Keita, and you can see why Arteta's leaning towards him, because he's a young player. He can get a goal, and he's a player that the coach can mold in a way coming for the future. And I think Lacazette's days are numbered. I don't know how much longer he's going to last at the club.
Yeah, look, Lacazette, when I watched, maybe he's good at coming off on the bench, but every time he came off that bench last season, I think the decision making was actually quite good. He was trying to combine with other players, and quite a few times he got I think more. So was it just a bad game?
Was it a bad game on the weekend?
I think maybe it was more of a bad game for him, because for me, when I saw him play when he came, I was even of the opinion that look, this guy should start more games. Definitely, put him and the bombing on the field, like make it work. That's what I would do. Make it work with the best players. Lacazette, he can finish. Aubameyang, we know he can score goals as well. You need goals. Liverpool have 3 goal scorers up front, and I think that's why they probably. Well, the whole team can score. They're all on the goal line. Jeez,
they have 2. Don't forget, man.
They're all on the goals. Huh?
They have 2. Liverpool have 2 goal scorers. Don't forget, man.
I think that's the way to win. Have more. The more goal scorers you have, the more goals you'll get.
What's happening with Ozil, man? I saw that they're saying that he hasn't, he's not training properly or whatever. He doesn't see. Obviously, Arteta doesn't want to say I don't see him. I don't see a future for him. But he's almost kind of trying. Right now there's no space for him in the squad, in the match day squad.
Yeah, I read that as well.
Yeah, look, you see, you don't know with him. And for me, I'm not even concerned about him now because I feel like he's not part of the team, so I don't even count him in. My one, like literally, I don't count him in the team.
Matt's shaking his head. Why are you shaking your head there, Matt?
Yeah.
I remember when Ozil joined Arsenal and it was like, what? That's a fucking Ozil. Where did that come from?
No, it's true. That's how it was. That's how it was. And I was happy. He was great. But now the guy doesn't want to play. Like, what must we do now? Like, we pay high wage and he's not playing. Like, it's incredible. Like, for me, I'm not gonna frustrate myself about that.
And then you're stuck with them when they're not performing anymore. I think Arsenal's challenge at the moment is they've done some fantastic work. You look at, I mean, it's early days. It's 2 games in, and this week will be a big test. But they look a lot more solid, more sensible. I think that's the word I'd use about Arsenal. This season compared to last, they just look so much more sensible. And that's probably the absolute avenue reach, because he was always a little bit not quite there. But now they need to build on. You're not going to win stuff just being sensible. You've got to have that something more that puts you over the edge. And, you know, like talking about Lacazette, he does a little bit here and there. He can finish. But Ozil was that player. You know, he was your something extra that you could put on and he'd make something happen. Yeah. As much as he's being phased out of the side, he's not been realistically replaced. Aubameyang, for all that he is not quite. He doesn't do what Ozil did, not by a long stretch. Yeah. And that's what Arsenal will need is just, if we're not going to make Ozil work, we've got to find that other person, that somebody else who can unlock doors and you know, make it a bit more exciting up front. But it's great they're a bit more solid at the back and they're a bit more calm under pressure. But it'll be cool to see if that lasts into this weekend. I mean, doing it against West Ham is one thing, but doing it against Liverpool is quite another. So
yeah, I agree. I agree with you there, Matt. Even I remember when Arsenal, I think it was 2 seasons back, Ozil played. Arsenal came back from a 3-0 loss with 3-0, 3 goals down from, I think it was the season before Liverpool won this trophy. I think last season before last. With 3-0 down was December, because I remember I was in Eastern Cape. And Ozil was the guy who turned it around. And it required something special. And he was that guy who turned it around. And you're right, I think, we need to find someone to replace him. Right? If you're not going to have him, someone should replace him.
There's a lot of talk about for the replacement, about Jorginho coming into Arsenal. How do you feel about that? Leaving Chelsea, joining the ranks of the Gunners?
We'll score the penalties.
Yeah, he missed the one on the
Jorginho, for me, I don't know about it being a replacement for Ozil, but surely he's like I can't get a play in my head, but I mean at times he breaks down a lot of play by winning very clever fouls. We've been the receiving end of it many times, not getting a card for it. It's the most annoying thing. But he uses his head quite a bit there. You can see that, look, it's game over, it's late for that, and he'll do a nice tactical foul there, get back, and stop play for the other team. I think he does that very well. He did it once or twice against Liverpool, but it didn't work. But
So to sum up the Arsenal game and what Wonga's thoughts with regards to Jorginho is he's saying is that he's a poor man's Jorginho. He's a poor man. Fernandinho, sorry, I'm getting all of the English. He's a poor man, Fernandinho from Man City. Right, we're going to move to the next game, and we're going to get Nick talking here. Nick, let's talk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I had spoken to you, Claudio. I was overseas. I was in Durban, and high hopes. I mean, I watched us absolutely batter West Ham, and I thought quite a half-decent West Ham team. And, I mean, all the signings sort of got involved. We had Jeff Hendrick, we had Callum Wilson scoring. Andy Carroll had a great game. I mean, who would have thought that he'd be one of our pivotal players? And then we go home to a Brighton side that on paper looked very underwhelming. Although they did all right against Chelsea the week before, they absolutely battered us from minute 1 to minute 96. They absolutely annihilated us. And I don't know. I was trying to figure it out whether they were that good or we were that shit. I think it was a bit of both. If I could give you a positive, I would probably be here for the next 3.5 hours because I'd probably have to speak about Steve Bruce's haircut or something like that, his hairdo, because there was absolutely nothing to talk about. I was with a family member who's not really, he doesn't follow football at all, and he just said to me, he's like, looks like all of these oaks have corona. So I was like, yeah, they probably do. I thought they're probably on the piss the night before, but to be fair, it was much of a performance that I should expect more often. I get very excited when we win. But I need to learn not to get very excited because we win on the odd occasion and then we lose frequently after that. So it is what it is. I am still hopeful. We won last night. We beat a League 2 team 7-0. So there's something there. But against the Spurs side who looked really good on the weekend, I am not as hopeful. However, when we do play the bigger sides, we tend to somehow raise our game. I don't know if he promises them bacon sandwiches at halftime or something. If the lads do all right, because I don't know. I honestly don't think the guy's got a plan B. Steve Bruce, he is what he is. He's done what he's done in football, but he's going to keep you in the league, and that's about it. And unfortunately, with the squad that we have, I think we could be doing a little bit better. I don't know, just in my opinion. If you want for Brighton, a really good sort of player that I thought, that Lamptey on the right back position. Yeah. He is world class. I read a tweet that someone said he might be playing for Barcelona, Bayern Munich in the next 2-3 years. He's really good. That was the only thing, like from a footballing perspective, I thought that was rather decent. From watching it with my dad on the TV, he's just swearing at the TV, saying that they're absolutely shite. But I was like, well, that kid's really good though. He absolutely battered us for, I think he was on for 60 minutes, and then he got injured because I think John Joe Shelby just got sick and tired of being taken the full of, and kicked him too many times. So unfortunately, it is what it is. That's the joys of being a Newcastle fan. We win one week, we lose the next, and we'll probably lose the next and the next and the next. And we might win, hopefully, by the first week of October. Who knows?
Nick, you know what I found interesting is that, I found the back four, your Newcastle back four, just when I was watching it over, they were all over the place. It literally looked like schoolboy. I don't know, they say it often, schoolboy defending. I don't know if the new signing, the youngster Jamal Lewis there at left back, I feel like he had a tough introduction there at Newcastle. And it's always, he's just got a couple of Norwich, literally leaking goals left, right, and centre. And he's moved into Newcastle, where you would think he's playing next to more senior players.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I had this argument with my dad. My dad's very ruthless when he talks about the players that play for Newcastle. If you think say shit,
get your dad
on. So, he's written off Jamal Lewis after last weekend. But to be honest with you, he was playing against a really good left back. Right back in Lamptey. But it's not really an excuse, to be fair. There was one moment where I had a screenshot of Jamal Lascelles. I don't know if you remember when you guys used to play school football, and they would have 3 defenders, and then there would be the sweeper right at the back, like 3 meters behind. Yeah. That's exactly what they had, and they played the whole of their front 3 onside for about 40 yards with their midfielder carrying the ball towards our box. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't.
It wasn't their midfielder, it was their striker, and it was the guy who I'm going to call Nalpe. It's just funny. It's funny that he's But the guy picked up the ball halfway of the pitch. Just kept going, and no one closed him down. They just jockeyed him all the way until he passed the ball back and had his time. He even took a touch, curled it bottom right. It's crazy, man.
No, it was, and it could have been more. To be fair, I don't think they keep it. I don't think he had a save to make, and unfortunately, it just shows you how the Premier League is. If you're not going to show up, you can't show up one week and then not the next. They were just on the ball, They just wanted it a little bit more. And at home, I would have expected a little bit more. John Joe Shelby getting on the ball, whipping those balls in from deep. I mean, there was nothing. There was no movement. There was no energy. It was flat. People blaming each other. It's just, I'm used to it now, and I must just stop getting so attached, because I do. After a win, I'm like, my team's so good.
But to be fair, though, I will say this, though, Nick. The home games. We're talking about Man United playing at home, Arsenal playing at home, you guys losing at home. It's just interesting that without the fans, the home the home fixture doesn't seem like there's much of a difference.
More of a neutral game, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wonder if that has to
Training
exactly, like a training session. I wonder if that's got to contribute to the weekend averaging 4.2 goals a game this weekend for the Premier League. It's one of the highest returns ever.
I think
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I like in terms of, and to be fair, I'm not saying Newcastle's a big club, but I would say it's a bigger club than Brighton. And I mean, if you look at a Crystal Palace going to a Man United, there's an opportunity for them to go and play on a nice field without the pressure and go showcase why they should maybe be playing in a Man United shirt or why they should maybe be playing at St. James's Park. You know, I do think the stronger teams at home, you might find, and you're right, as long as the fans stay away, it might be tough for them to sort of get it going. You know, so. That's a fair point.
Definitely does play a part, man. I think St. James's Park is a big stadium. You know, it's one of the top 10 in terms of capacity. So I think the whole fans thing does definitely play a big part, man. You know, so I think going to Anfield isn't imposing. You know, that's why Leeds could probably be so fearless. And then obviously at Old Trafford as well. Man. So it levels up the playing field, I think. Having no fans, but Newcastle, man, it's a bit scary. 1 week you win, 1 week you lose, but it's the hope that kills you, Nick.
Yeah, it's the hope that kills you, man. That's why I drink. That's why I drink.
Did anyone see the sending off? That is it, Basoma from Brighton?
Yeah.
Did you see his sending off there?
No.
But was it?
I thought it was a little bit unfortunate for him, but it was horrific if you see it. Like it was very reckless. Like he just
it was reckless.
swung his boot back without looking.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I was in between two minds. I'm like, this guy's just trying to add some flair. I suppose the argument is there's no one in the stand to give that flair to. So you but it's still like. Yeah, I'd see if I was a player, I'd be pissed off if I got that red card. I'm not gonna lie. I understand, like if you're the player on the receiving end, you'd be crying until you looked up and saw the guy getting his marching orders. But I think, I'd be livid if I got that. But right, let's move on. We're gonna move over to.
I think he's injured now, though. I think he's injured.
Broke his nose.
Yeah, I think his whole face was gashed up, so he might not play this weekend.
Oh,
okay,
Jamal
Lewis.
So my dad will be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We're going to move to box office now. The reason I'm saying this is because they got the special one. We know Mourinho, and look at Matt. He's literally on the edge of his seat. And, he was meant to make appearances the previous 2 weeks, but he wasn't there because his team was doing a bit, they were performing poorly. And now all of a sudden, miraculously, the man shows up. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, this was the Spurs of old. They were fun to watch. We could have lost the game. We could have won the game. It was dependent on flashes of brilliance from two amazing players. It was really fun. The first half was horrible. It was a reminder of everything we've been doing wrong for so long. The passes weren't getting to their targets. Everyone was all over the place. I'm still not fully convinced that Dyer is ready to step into the center of defense and carry that. So there's a lot going on. A lot of work to still do, but the second half was just vintage Spurs. It was all out attack. Doesn't matter who's in goal, just go for it, and it worked. And Harry Kane and Son, they showed what they can do together. They are a fantastic pair. They've always been really good at assisting one another. You look at the numbers. I think they're sort of one of the top pairs over the last few years in terms of goals and assists as a pair, and it showed. They've got a psychic knowledge of where the other one's going to be. It was really good to see. So I think if we can play more like that, I'll be happy. It's the Spurs way. It's we don't go out and bore the team to death. It's supposed to be exciting. Football's supposed to get you on the edge of the seat. And as a Spurs fan, I know that very often you get from the edge of your seat to a pit of despair because we lose. But I want to have fun. I want to feel excited. I want to feel like I did at the end of that game last weekend. So if we can keep that going, I won't be too upset. It's not the Mourinho way.
Yeah, man.
He doesn't play like that. It's not how he sets up sides. But if we can have a few more games like that, I won't be upset.
Yeah, well, if they keep going that way, then get your 3 goals and set up like the normal Mourinho shutting shop, and you guys will be all right. I just found it interesting that while you were talking about this, Sello was on his phone, he lost interest, and he's kind of like, why could Mourinho not do this when he was at United? Something along those lines. That's what I was thinking.
Mourinho did well in his second season, man. So listen, well done to Spurs. You know what I mean? I just want to see how long it lasts. I'll be interested to see how Bale does once he's fit again. And yeah, man, Son and Kane have always been a good partnership, man, passing to one another. Those are Tottenham's most dangerous players consistently. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying about Dyer, because I said this, I think, last week's show or 2 weeks ago. I said Eric Dyer is not the guy to be in center of defense. You know, I thought you'd actually play Sanchez and Barreiro together, which is a better pairing than Dyer. Man, Dyer is just he looked better in the center of midfield, just in front of the defense. You know, but center back, and he's not the one.
Look, you can never doubt his commitment. He's always 100% involved. He's going to get exactly where he wants to be. But it's just whether or not he's as good a defender as someone like Sanchez. That's the question. And I don't know. Maybe, although there's been talk that now with these new signings that we could change to a 3-4-3 kind of formation, and that might favour it more, because then if he's in a central 3 rather than a central 2, there'd be less pressure on him to get every decision right. So that could end up working. But whether or not, you know, I still think we're a little bit light in central defence. With losing for Tongan was a big loss. You know, I mean, he's older now. It was time for him to move on, whatever. But we haven't adequately replaced him, and the centre midfield still feels a bit light. You know, I love Harry Winks. Obviously, he's a local boy and all of that, but it's still not. I don't know. We still don't feel as solid in the middle as we have in previous seasons and stuff. I think that's where I still think we could get found out over the course of a whole season. But if we get a front 3 of Bale, Kane, and Son firing at the same time, that could be amazing. I mean, sheesh, it'll blow my mind. I'll be so happy. And it's like getting the band back together, you know, Ledley King on the bench, assistant manager, Bale on the pitch. I want them to call up Berbatov and
get in the band back together. Glenn Hoddle, free kick specialist.
Yeah. We'll just bring him on.
You say midfield is a bit light, but what about, like, what did you think of Ndombele's performance?
He was really good, and he did the same thing at the beginning of last season. He had a couple of really promising performances at the beginning, and then I don't know whether, you know, you never know what goes on in the back, how hard he works in training. If Mourinho doesn't like something he sees, then he seems to fade away. I hope, because he is a solid player. From what I saw, I mean, I didn't know. I don't watch a lot of European football, so I didn't know a huge amount about him before he joined Spurs. But since then, I've done a bit of research, and he does look a quality player. I think he could do some good work. And we are missing that kind of that muscle and meat in the middle, which he could bring.
Yeah. Well, he definitely has a lot of meat.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if he's not playing because Mourinho knows he's got like a Benny McCarthy cupboard of like chocolates at home or something. I'm not sure if that's the deal, but he did seem to like boss people around in the midfield on the weekend.
Yeah, no, he's a strong man. He's definitely something that Spurs need in that midfield. I think if you just start him and Harry Winks in the midfield, or start him with Liverpool, it'll bear fruit. You know, I think what you said about that 3-4-3 will actually be a good formation, because it will get the best out of Matt Doherty on the right wing back, and then Reguilon is a very much attack minded left back. So that actually could be a nice formation. It's just obviously, I think then in the defense, you don't have options for the 3-man defense. It's like you only have 3 centre backs, so you have no one else to come on. You know, which is actually quite bad. The fact that you have 3 centre backs.
Yeah, and I find it two things quite interesting. Is that one, Son isn't like, he must be a super frustrating player to be having part of your club, because you know he can reach certain heights where you're like, shit, one day you're like, this guy's doing the same thing Salah's doing and Mane are doing, and the next week the Oaks completely lost. And then the other thing is you got Dele Alli, what's going on with him? Is he going to leave the club? Is he staying? Isn't he going? You know, Mourinho's not buying into whatever he's selling at practice.
Yeah, it's a shame, but in truth, Ali hasn't really been performing. If you look at the last 2 seasons, he hasn't quite hit where he was. And I wonder, a change might be better for him. You know, the right kind of club. I don't think he's not the kind of player. He's not going to move down the league, and he probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
I saw some stuff linking him with PSG, which I think would be pretty outlandish, but it could actually work out really well if you think about it. A club like PSG, which is an elite side, so he'd be happy to go there, and they have they're very dominant in their league. He could really have some fun there and probably score a lot more goals. It might kind of reignite his career. And also, given the kind of player he is, he thrives sort of sitting behind the striker, sort of that attacking mid, very advanced attacking mid kind of player. And we're probably not going to need that going forward. Just the way we're likely to set up. If we do go to a 3-4-3, there's no room for someone sitting behind Harry Kane. It's not going to work. So it might be time for him to find a new challenge, which would be a huge shame because he was part of that fun bunch, you know, the Pochettino kind of glory years. It'd be it's you know, seeing Vertonghen go, seeing Dembele leave last season. It's like it's the end of a certain kind of era, which is a real bummer. And it will be really, really sad to see him go, but it might be better for his development and ultimately better for you know the club as well, not to have sort of a player of his shape not making it into the squad. I'm sure that's a negative kind of drain. It's back to the Ozil. It must be weird for the Arsenal players working their asses off all week and then seeing him not doing anything much and earning as much as he does. That kind of influence is maybe better to move on if you can. So
and if I don't know if you guys, anyone here has seen the All or Nothing documentary with Mourinho. And obviously towards the end of last season, anyone been watching it?
I still have
clips.
Don't kill me. Don't kill me.
So I mean, there have been moments where Dele he comes in and he's not happy with the result and he sulks blatantly in front of everyone, and then Eric Dyer has a go at him and vice versa. And I think once that happens, it's easy to like start pointing people out and moping around and sulking like a baby. I mean, Nick will know and Wonga will know in terms of from their coaching experience. But it's another thing that when you've done nothing in the game, but yet you're pointing fingers. And that also brings me to the point where I think you've got a Dyer playing at centre-back. Is it the solution? No, it's not. We know it's not because Tottenham are being linked with a centre-back from Inter Milan. He's a Slovakian player for £59 million. Yeah, they don't want to pay it. They want to pay half of that. But I think the reason Dyer is playing is because he speaks Portuguese. Mourinho understands him. I think he is trying his best. So Mourinho gains his trust and vice versa, and that's why he's getting game time.
True. There's a relationship there. Then he's.
I think
he tried to buy. I think he tried to buy Dyer a few times in his career.
Yeah,
he was quite open about that. I mean, I think he followed his progress because he did his youth football in his youth development was in Portugal. I think it's Lisbon. I think he's liked the fact that he's a player that will do A, B, and C. If you ask him to do A, B, and C, he doesn't do everything else or anything else. He's a Mr. Reliable, if you want to call it that. But his sort of faults have come through recently. I know from coaching, if I can get a player that will die for me on the field, I generally will put him in the lineup. So I understand the method to the madness. But a team that was finishing second in the Champions League 2 seasons ago or a season ago, I don't know, you can't be just looking at sort of the tried and trusted because you trust them or because you have a relationship. So it is a fine line. I know coaches are sort of, they think that way. So I don't know. I think that's why he's there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with me.
He puts in the hours, you know, he's a solid player in the sense that he'll always do what's asked of him. And he also doesn't mess around, you know, he's a real, he gets involved and makes himself known. He'll never shy away from the game. He very rarely has an anonymous game. Even if he has a bad game, he's out there, which I think it's an important thing. And also, picking on one player in the Spurs squad at the moment is a bit harsh because as a squad, for the most part, the entire squad is kind of, you know, not performing great. And I'm saying that as a Spurs fan. Like I'm watching this, we're not playing as well as we were maybe a year or two ago. It's even Harry Kane at times has looked not quite himself. He's not quite as sharp in some games. He's probably just exhausted because he's been playing so much football over the last 3 years. But you know, Ali and Dyer and even to a certain extent, Nora has had quite a quiet period. You know, after the highs of getting us into that Champions League final, he's also had some fairly anonymous games. And I think just as a squad, we're in need of a bit of something. And maybe the Southampton game did it. Maybe that was a bit of a reminder of what we're capable of the fun that we can have and how we can influence games, because that's always been like Spurs' strength, is that they'll come in and they'll do something a little bit mad, a little bit crazy, score 5 goals in the second half or 4 goals in the second half, and it's kind of that bringing that fun back could really change the nature of the entire squad and maybe move us on and give us into a bit of a period of some positivity. But like you, Nick, I've been a Spurs fan my whole life, so I know that it's equally possible that we'll go up against you and concede 7. So, it's we just don't know. This weekend, a huge game for both sides, for Newcastle and Spurs, simply because of the nature of both clubs. If Spurs win, it means 2 on the row, two losses in a row for Newcastle, and it could be the start of a horrible run. And if Newcastle win, then Spurs undone all that positive energy from the Southampton game, and then you just wonder how it'll impact. So,
100%.
You see, like when I look at Spurs as well, you see, it's very, like, you see the time when Pochettino was there. That was, for the first time, I'll honestly admit that, you're a bit worried playing Spurs, and especially where Arsenal was playing. You're like, you can't be playing against this team. And they were hot. I can't even lie to you. Son, Kane, Lucas, those guys were hot. Ericsson as well. They were combining. You could see they were loving what they were doing. And Pochettino was clearly making a difference. And that's why obviously everyone wanted, there were bigger clubs now wanting Pochettino. But now when I see them under Mourinho, it's nothing close to there. And I honestly feel that Spurs still have a long way to go to be last. Like when they were Pochettino, yes, they were challenging for the title. They were truly challenging for it, and their team could. But now when I look at them, like after watching the first game, I tried to watch it. It was dead. It was dead. And then now the next game, they're scoring. There's 7 goals in the game. I also think it was a result that Southampton also not having a good start as well. They also flat as well. I think it's a huge factor in Spurs. In Spurs'
defense and in Mourinho's defense, the man has won a trophy wherever he's gone. So I think that's why Levy brought him in, and I think he will win something. I don't know where you're going to finish in the league, but he will. If the league position is maybe slipping for him, he's going to put all his eggs in one basket and go for something, because at the end of the day, he's a serial winner. And that's, I still look up to him as a coach. I admire him immensely, even though he's maybe a bit past it in terms of maybe adapting the way he plays. But we can't deny the man's a successful coach. I
honestly think, Nick, for me, I think all he has right now is Gareth Bale. I think that's honestly the truth. That's the only thing that'll save him now. Top 4 is Gareth Bale.
You got to get him off the golf course first, though.
Yeah, that's on my.
He's always on the golf course.
That's like if that guy can perform, Mourinho's safe.
Yeah, Spurs are good. Spurs with Bale are a different entity than Spurs without Bale. But I still think Spurs have got a solid squad. I don't think the problem has been the players in the squad. I think the challenge for the last year has been the right motivation, the right system, just getting the right performances out of them. And I feel like Mourinho is a proven success. He's an amazing coach. Whether or not he's right for Spurs was always kind of the debate. Because even when Spurs was at Chelsea and when Mourinho was at Chelsea and everybody in the world wanted him, even then you'd look at him and think, but he's not really a Spurs manager, because Spurs have never played that, hold the line, hold the lead kind of. We've always conceded slightly less than we've scored over the course of the season. We've never been a Mourinho. And I think that's kind of the big thing for us. It'd be awesome to win a trophy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, in the course of my life, we've not won many. So it'd be great to win one. And if Mourinho delivers that, I'll be really happy. But I think a lot of Spurs Tottenham fans feel that way, where we're still not 100% sure that this relationship is the right one for us. He's an amazing coach, but we've never played that way. We've never played safety first football. And most of our squad have never played that way. Even our defenders have never really defended first. And I think that's going to be the tough thing for the season. If Mourinho can stamp his own kind of way of doing things on us, we may see some positive changes. But ultimately, he's got to undo, however many years of us playing kind of gung-ho and just going out for the fun of it kind of football. And that's going to be a tough thing. And if it doesn't deliver results, the fans turn quick, because as Spurs fans, we expect to be entertained even when we're losing. And so if we're not winning and we're playing boring football, people are going to, that we saw it last season already. And I think that's where, if you see the post-lockdown period where Spurs did quite well in that, project restart. And it was because Mourinho was able to force players to play his way, and there were no fans screaming at them to get forward.
Yeah, he controlled what he could control.
Have benefited from having an empty stadium because there's no fans telling us this isn't how we do things. So whether or not that lasts it'll be down to whether or not the results are delivered. I think people are forgiving. Fans are forgiving when you're winning, and as the Everton game showed, if we're not winning, then it's really not fun to play Mourinho's way.
Yeah.
But are you okay? Yeah, I'm welcome. I'm back, guys.
Welcome back.
Like Firmino,
some technical.
Like Firmino.
Just missing in action.
Missing in action.
He's gone again.
Yo,
No, I'm joking. I was actually just messing with you. I was actually saying. Yeah, I had other things I wanted to say there, but I agree with Nick though. I think this season, I do think Mourinho is going to put his eggs in one basket. Will he win a trophy? I'm of the opinion he will. But Bale's not playing in the PGA Tour. He will be scoring goals for Tottenham, and I think apart from that though, I think like if I've got to compare them to United, I mean when I made my predictions 2 weeks ago, I mean, we all knew our predictions were going to be premature because the transfer window is still open. But now I'm starting to look at it going, if Bale comes in and he's fit and this team is riding, it's almost like Bale signing for the club gave the other players a boost. Without even playing, they had a good season. It's almost like Son goes, oh, shit, if I don't perform, there's a chance I'm going to lose my spot in the team. So from that perspective, now I'm starting to go, shit, putting United at third. I mean, now I'm starting to question whether or not they're going to finish above Tottenham.
See, it's the hope that kills you.
Wills will come. Listen, as long as Tottenham have Dyer in the center of defense, they won't finish United. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Dyer he's not a solid defender. You can have Gareth Bale all you want.
Come on, Dyer still does a job better than Lindelof and Punchy McPunchface Maguire.
No. Dyer's not better than Maguire. Yes, he's maybe the same level as Lindelof, but Adam, man, like he's a -1. That's what I call him. You play with 10 men when you have Dyer on the field, man. Ings.
Like seeing as we're talking about this, I mean, we need to talk about Liverpool at some stage, but if we're seeing as we're talking about the United, but the United Maguire thing is an interesting thing. I remember when Liverpool signed Van Dijk for 75 million pounds. I remember having a conversation with Wonga's cousin, and I said, "This is a bargain." And he says, no, it's overpriced, it's ridiculous. I was like, this is a bargain. Because I saw the man play, I knew his attributes, I knew what he was doing. And when he came, he transformed the team at the back. When you're spending 80 million pounds on Punchy McPunchface, it's like the defense still looks like it's in shambles. So for me, it's starting to question, like, sure, okay, he's a good player. Was he worth 80 million? I think he's proving he wasn't.
The problem is with people watching, right, is that you guys actually forget the fact that Man United conceded the third best defense in the league, right? They conceded about 35 goals, right? It's a huge difference from the season before that. You know what I mean? And that is also Maguire coming in. Yes, he has his weaknesses, but he has made a positive influence. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Is the price tag that people associate with him is that you then see if he makes a mistake, oh, what a waste of 80 million pounds. That's the thing, is that he has made a positive influence. You know what I mean? It's not about the fact that he's a bad defender. Yes, he's not worth 80 million pounds, correct? But still, he's made a positive influence on Man United.
Yeah, and I agree with you. There you have it, folks. Sello admitted that Harry Maguire is not worth 80 million pounds. Yes, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's a given. That's a given. Harry Maguire's worth, I would say 45 million pounds.
Yo.
What's Jamal Lascelles worth then?
Is it a price?
All right, guys. I think it's about that time. It's about that time we talk about champions. Yeah. I mean, let's dive into this.
Let's all log up so he talks to himself.
Like, come on, guys. I'm not even going to start this conversation. if you watch the game, let's talk about it. I actually wanted
for me.
Mane
Because,
is an absolute magician. I can tell you
Yeah.
that much. Mane is an absolute magician, and I've had him as my captain for my fantasy team for probably going into last season, probably since November. And I just won't take him out because the minute I took him out last year, he goes and scores a hat trick or he scores a double or a brace. So he's always there and thereabouts, and he
Yeah.
proved it. He proved how good he was against a really good. And we've got to give credit where credit's due. That Chelsea team is going to be up there. They're going to be up there. And I think Lampard was quite honest. I mean, barring the mistake, they were in the game. They were in the game. And he's honest with himself as well. He says, well, we can't speak about in hindsight. But that just showed the class of what Liverpool literally ooze. And if you've got a player like Mane, Salah, and then that Thiago just coming in and bossing the show for 45 minutes, it was great to see.
Yeah, he broke some record. 45 minutes, 82 passes. I think it was like 88 touches. He did something ridiculous. He had more touches and passes than Kovacic and Jorginho and Kante. Yeah. And they played 79 minutes to 90 minutes. So, he just came in and just dictated the tempo of the game. And it was for 10-man Chelsea. The worst thing that could have happened was Thiago being introduced to the game, to be honest. But what I found quite interesting was last week when we spoke, remember I was unsure what the result would be, and you guys asked, and I said, well, it's dependent on two factors. Depending on if Pulisic is playing or if Mane shows up. Because Mane, we know Mane, he always does well in the big games. I captained him in my fantasy week just because I know when it's a big team, big game, Mane is the guy who produces. Salah tends to take a seat when that happens for some reason. But the game was tentative because Chelsea did what they had to do. They sat deeper. They waited, as they would. Liverpool had all the possession, with Hendo doing a great job in the first 45 minutes. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he was working hard. He was actually changing direction. He was doing what he had to do. But Chelsea actually had more of the chances, largely because of Timo Werner peeling off to the left. And there's one moment for me that was the highlight of the game, or that first 45 minutes, was Fabinho playing centre-back and just take him out one-on-one. And that's also the question is when you've got a centre midfielder, a defensive centre midfielder who's a better centre half than I think 3 or 4 of the United centre halves, then United really got to be scratching their head. Sorry, it seems like I'm having a go at Sello's team today, but I'm really not. I'm just stating
it's better than all of them.
Yeah. I mean, that for me was a highlight. I was like, jeepers, we've got Van Dijk, who's always fit. Then we've got the other two that are fighting for who's injured the most between Gomez and Matip. And Fabinho just said, cool, well, it's a pity Mosa's not here because I used to hate playing centre-back when I was a midfielder. But the man's doing the job. So it's a big question as whether or not they do sign another centre-half or whether or not they stick with him. I don't think they're going to sign anyone else. I think they will stick with him.
I think you should. I think you should because Matip is not a reliable in terms of injuries. I think you should sign someone, even if it's a younger player, maybe a 21-year-old, just to come in, gain some experience, and then he'll obviously fill in, play some League Cup, play some FA Cup, and then obviously when there are injuries, he can fill in because Matip has had some injury problems, and I think also Joe Gomez. He doesn't play well if he's not playing with Van Dijk. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Because I agree. Yeah, when I look at him for England, he's lost. You know what I mean? It's even worse when he plays for England with Dyer. It's two headless chickens playing centre back together. You know what I mean? So I think you need to sign someone. You don't want to be relying too much on Fabinho at centre back. Yes, he can fill in. And he had a great game. They're solid. He had Timo Werner easily there, but people were also overreacting with Timo Werner. Man, they were saying that he's a fraud. He's on fraud watch. I can't believe people are saying that. It's just a second game.
Everything he did looked dangerous. He was actually crazy. But, there was a moment where I was thinking to myself, I was watching and I was going, jeepers, Liverpool passed on this guy. And everything he's doing at the moment looks far more dangerous, apart from Mane. It looked more dangerous than Fabinho as well as Salah. And I was like, jeepers. He's super direct. He runs the defenders. He asks a lot of questions. I think the one thing is he needs to get a goal. He needs to get a goal sometime soon because the confidence, you know how it is as a striker. If you're not scoring early on, people start asking questions, especially with the price tag being a thing. I think the price tag affects strikers more than it does defenders, to be honest.
Yeah.
And as to Marcus's comment there, saying this, I'm a poor editor. You can go swim in a lake, Marcus. Hendo is a Premier League captain that won the freaking Premier League. Okay, I'm going to move on from that.
Wow.
The next thing, let's talk about Jota. Liverpool signing Jota. I think we lost a viewer. Marcus, come back. I was just joking. No, I'm just kidding. Jota's signing for Liverpool. What are your thoughts about that, guys?
I think it's a solid signing. He's got proven quality. He's played he had a fantastic season for Wolves. I think the system that Liverpool plays, they needed a couple more players to come in because they play such a high intensity game. They needed a couple of players just to be able to give your front three a break from time to time. And Jota's that kind of player. He's going to come in. He'll challenge for positions as well. He's going to press. He's going to push. He's going to want to be on the starting 11. So I think it's a smart signing. And Liverpool were quite smart with their signings. They kept it very quiet. There was they got like the opposite strategy to United. United who were linked with all and sundry. To the extent that there was all those welcome to United videos on YouTube for players who subsequently joined other sides in the league, which is a little bit embarrassing. But, Liverpool the other way where they kept it really quiet and all of a sudden they pulled out these guys. And it's in the way you said, Bale has kind of lifted Tottenham. There's a lift at Liverpool where they were already at the height. There was already a team playing at its best. And now you've got these new guys coming in and pressing them, pushing them to be that little bit more. It's quite exciting, and it showed against Chelsea. Chelsea, like you said, Nick, they're not a bad side. This is a solid side who are going to be expecting to challenge right at the top. But it just showed the difference in the ability to put the game to bed for Liverpool. They were clinical. They took their chances. They made it count. And over the course of the season, that's going to really matter. And Liverpool, I think, could be they're showing really positive signs for holding on to their championship.
Matt, I think you nailed it on the head, and I think I told you this, Claudio. I think the one thing that City have, Man City, this is that they have a front three on their bench that can come in arguably and do exactly what their starting front three would do. And I question whether or not Liverpool's front three that was waiting on the bench could do the exact same job as what they starting front three could. And I agree with you. You add in a Jota to that. That is an unreal signing. If we're looking at what sort of longevity and the depth that you actually need for the rest of the season, I think that will go a long way. And you know what? If he's fighting, you might even find himself in a couple of starting 11s in the near future. You never know. Injuries, Champions League starts, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. So he will get his opportunity. And Klopp uses his squad well. I think he's not afraid to throw guys in. He gives guys opportunities and he gives everyone a chance to really contribute. And I think that was a constant sort of theme throughout his sort of title-winning season. I think he looked at. I think one of the boys there, I think, was it Harvey Elliott? He never got a medal, Claudio. But, I mean, the way he sort of made sure he was up there lifting the trophy, giving him a cuddle, he can see what value everybody adds, and I think you add in a player like that to the sort of strike force that you guys have already. I don't know. It's going to be – I don't want to play you anytime soon.
Yeah, man. And that's the next question when we talk about the Arsenal-Liverpool fixture. But what excites me about Jota is he's got pace. He's got the intelligence, the intricacies that can pull off the same passes as Firmino. So when Firmino isn't being as effective as what he normally is, because he does, like you said, there are times when he can go quiet. It's just a different type of player. So what excites me is the possibility of having three really pacey guys, as well as a guy who can then still link up. But if one of them aren't performing, we've got him who can put them under pressure. And the biggest plus out of all of this is that he's only 23 years old. So I think there's a huge future for him to come, and he's only going to get better playing with those sort of players. Well, it can go either way, right? It can go like some guys literally stand up to the challenge and they get better, and other guys disappear. So it's all dependent on there. But let's move on to the next game, and that is the Wolves City game.
Yeah, no, man, it was so impressive, man. Really impressive. They didn't look like they didn't look like they had some players who were off. Nathan Ake fitted in well. John Stones even had a decent game, which was quite surprising. But yeah, no, I was impressed with them. De Bruyne as usual, and it was a different system. 4-2-3-1, whereas normally they play 4-3-3. So it's a different system. Yeah. So I think maybe Pep is tinkering a bit there again, but obviously tinkering for the better. So I think Man City will be right up there, scoring 2 goals a game type this season. They look menacing again. So they just look like the team that will definitely be number 1 or 2 this season. And I think, but yeah, with Mendy though, I'm still a bit
suspect.
Yeah, he's a bit suspect, man. I think also yes, Traore always gets the better of him in matches between the 2 teams. But Mendy, that side is the weak side for Man City. I would have thought they would have tried to bring in a left back, but I guess it'll be Zinchenko and Mendy on the left backs, and then Salah will have a field day with them. Ziyech will have a field day with Mendy. So many right wings will have a field day with Mendy. Mendy's not up to scratch as a left back for a title challenging team.
For me, I see when I saw Man City, I'm very opposite to Sello. I think Man City for me looked like at the end of the game they scraped away those 3 points. I know they scored that last goal in like the dying minutes of the games. Fair could have been 2-1, finished off like that. It would have still been the same thing. When I saw first half, yes, Man City were dominating. Second half, Wolves came back and they were a different team.
There was like a 15-minute spell there. Jeepers.
Yeah, it could have been longer. They were sweating. That could have been 20, 30 minutes. That Podence, is it Podence? How do you pronounce that?
Jeepers. Podence. Yeah, man. Little Bobo there on De Bruyne.
That's what that guy was. Finished. Gave De Bruyne through the legs. I mean, he was hot that second half. Let me say that.
To be fair, if they let go of Jota, who was, apart from Jimenez, was their outlet last season, they know they've got something special in Podence that they got from Olympiacos. Also a young player, but what a game here.
Podence, that's how we say it. So Podence.
Yes.
So he played very well that second half. And if you saw, I mean, if you could see differently that first half, Wolves are like this, second half, better team. For me, takeaway from that game was Wolves are still dangerous this season. Yes, some of the main players have been taken away, but they definitely there. They're still a team to watch out for. Man City, for me, I feel they were lucky to get away with the 3 points.
100%.
If that defender, who was it who gave away the penalty? I thought it was
Sai's centre back. That was the difference in the game. That was the thing in the game. First off,
my thing is, what you're saying is that the reason I think that City got they weren't dominant second half is because of the lack of preseason. So what they had is that they had all the energy in the first half, right, and that's dominating. But then because the fitness levels of some players aren't where they're supposed to be, that's where they foul off. And also obviously with Wolves obviously impose themselves more in the second half. So it's obviously City liking a bit of fitness, but also Wolves also just attacking. So I can say that this game is how City will perform in the season, and they won't do well. You know what I mean? I think that it's just because we also need to say that Wolves are good.
The thing with City, I always find with City, like even on a day like this where there's questions about whether or not they were at their peak, they still won 3-1 at Wolves, who are a solid side. And my fear with as someone who doesn't support City and watching them, it's always they never look like they're 100%, but they're still winning games consistently. And then so it makes you think there's more to come. They could come up if they get a few things right, they get a few players back from injury, whatever, they could do more. And that's the thing with the Guardiola side is that there's a peak that they could still reach that could just dominate the league again. I think we all kind of know it's a 2-horse race again. It's going to be Liverpool and City, assuming neither of them really mess it up. And I think that's really exciting. And I think what's going to be kind of interesting to see is whether or if City do decide to turn it on, if they take it into that next gear and they start, if they're playing not great and beating Wolves 3-1 at home, then imagine what they're going to do when they start really firing. I think that's going to be potentially really, really dangerous for the rest of the league.
Yeah, look, I agree with both. What to a certain extent, I mean, you guys, what you're saying isn't wrong. But if we're going back to the point of what Wonga was saying, is that they started slow. We can talk about preseason. The difference in that first half was Wolves weren't the usual Wolves. They were similar to what you guys are saying with what City were. The difference in that first half, those first 45 minutes, was De Bruyne. That was the difference. That's the quality that they have in De Bruyne. Second half, I mean, 2-0 up, you can see 2-0 up is always a dangerous situation to be in because you're more comfortable than what you should be. You concede one goal, you're in trouble. So they came out a bit more comfortable than what they should have been, and Wolves just came at them. And, I mean, Adama Traore, like you mentioned Mendy, Sello. Mendy was a highway waiting to just be run up and down. Everything that was coming down from Wolves for the first 15, 20 minutes was Mendy. That was Traore and Podence coming, and they were just exploiting the guy. He wasn't even on the field. The man, he was so petrified of Traore, he would give him 2 or 3 meters in space every time. He had the time to take a touch. He had time to look up. He had time to put the ball in the box. They should have been 3 or 4. I mean, at least scored two more goals than what they did. So I do think, like with regards to what Wonga's saying, is can they break a Champions League spot? The difference is, I think for them now is they've added 1 or 2 more players than they usually have. They've just signed Semedo from Barcelona. Yeah. So they do have the squad is growing. I mean, they've got 10 official Portuguese players, so they're one shy of having a full Portuguese 11, which is unbelievable. But look, as a Portuguese citizen, I'm not opposed to that because what kind of nation would not want 11 of their patriots playing in the Premier League? I mean, that's unbelievable.
But you must see the most important thing is that their third kit is the Portugal colours, so that's the most important.
Yeah, I might be getting that kit soon, just because it's national duty. I think if you don't buy it, you might get arrested.
You're not buying it by accident, thinking you're buying a Portugal kit.
Yeah, so that's City. If we're going to wrap it up, before we go, guys, the predictions for this coming week. We've got Brighton versus Man United. Let's start there.
Man United.
Yeah.
I think Man United will take it.
2 in a row. They're going to have to...
Yeah.
I mean, that said, Brighton had a good performance against Newcastle, so they're not going to also be a pushover. But I think United are going to have to pull it off. This will be a very, very awkward call next week if it's not, if United don't win this.
Sello might be hoping it's another Heritage Day next week.
You're going to suddenly have load shedding.
It's 2-1 to United. 2-1 to United. Brighton have a good team. And obviously they've got the confidence of winning against Newcastle. They've played well in 2 games so far. They also won their League Cup match against Preston. So yeah, they obviously confidence is high. But Man United, they need to get their first points. Especially because we already have we won game behind and then we lost. So we further behind if we lose or draw. And it's not a good way to start the season. And I think Solskjaer will start by at centre back with Maguire, which will be good for the team. And it will be interesting to see what he decides in the midfield because Van der Beek has brought in some fresh energy into the team. So I think he deserves a start as well. But it'll be interesting how he implements him with the other centre mids. So 2-1 to United.
2-1 to United from Sello. Matt, if you have to give a score prediction.
I reckon 2-1. I think it'll be close. I think 2-1's a good prediction. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. I think Brighton have got goals in them. And so I reckon 2-1 is a good prediction.
We've got a 3-1 from Savannah.
3-2
to Brighton.
3-2
to Brighton.
No. I'll give it to Man United, but it's Harry Maguire again at the back, just giving you headaches.
Guys, he did nothing wrong.
He's like a putt bus.
Harry Maguire did nothing wrong in the first in the game against Palace. Nothing wrong.
He's a disaster waiting to happen there, man. Come on, Sello.
Nothing wrong,
Hey,
guys.
you've just taken the plaster off the wound again, Nick. This is a sore spot for Sello. Wonga, prediction.
Yeah, I also think Man United will take it. But I'm of the opinion that they will try their best to. I mean, I think Brighton will be the team to bounce back from, to keep a clean sheet as well, and I think they'll try and do it. David, they are obviously not happy about the penalty situation. I think he's going to try his best to make sure that sheet is clean, and I think he can do it against Brighton.
Yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, Brighton are a team that like playing a little bit, and I think that falls better into the hands of United. They do have a weak spot, which is the left-hand side, and you've got Lamptey on the right attacking for Brighton, so that might be a bit of an issue, and they might expose United's flank there. But there are going to be goals, and I think maybe a 3-2. Let's go 3-2. It's going to be an exciting game, I'd say. So, yeah, but to United. That's what I'm going with. West Brom, Chelsea, guys. Seeing as Mosa's here. Not here, sorry. What are we thinking there?
Chelsea, 3-1 to Chelsea, yeah.
West Brom looked they looked a little bit shaky, yeah? I don't know. I think they're going straight back down by the looks of it. And then Bilic was livid there, but I think there's a couple of highways in that team there. And I think a team like Chelsea on their day, I think Timo Werner needs to get on the score sheet. I think he might be 100%. Able to get his confidence here and start his season off on a what better way against a team that's
Son scored 4 goals than he against them, so
yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, what a better team to play, I think. Where's the game? I think it's at Chelsea, correct?
That's at West Brom.
It's at West Brom. Yeah. I didn't see them conceding. Probably 2-3-0 to Chelsea. That's my opinion.
Cool. I say 5.
They also don't have Bilic. Bilic is also he's not going to be on the bench.
Red carded, yeah.
Yeah. And they won't have Kieran Gibbs either, so
they'll
be short.
It'll be a very hard one. And I think 3-0 easy.
But this is the Premier League, lads, so we might be here next week saying, what the fuck were we saying?
You're 2-1 to West Brom. What the fuck are we saying, right? West Brom have that guy who hit that amazing free kick as a Pereira. The left footer. He had a free kick against Everton.
Is it Jay Rodriguez?
I don't know if you know. There's a guy for as a left footer.
Jay Rodriguez is a Burnley. Sorry.
Yeah, he had a sweet free kick against Everton. Pickford couldn't see anything there, so he looks like a decent player actually. I wouldn't mind them getting relegated, so he go to United or to another team.
Yeah. So it's a Chelsea win, I think. We all saying that.
Yeah, I think it's Chelsea win hands down. Wonga said 5, Matt said 3. What did you say, Nick?
I said 2-3. 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
But I'll go 3.
Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna say Timo Werner hat-trick, 3-0. Let's say that. Okay. He's gonna come off. And Kai Havertz scored a goal for Chelsea yesterday, so that's also an interesting one. So maybe 4-0. The next one's gonna be a juicy one. Spurs versus Newcastle.
There's goals in that game. Spurs will keep a clean sheet, but I do think Spurs will win it. But I think it's going to be, like a 3-2 kind of affair, or 4-3 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
I don't see Spurs being tidy with Newcastle. Have got some goal threats. They've got more than one. It's not. They get from a few different places. So
we've had a couple of good games over the years, to be fair. And I agree with you. I think we're both going to probably concede. I do think if Callum Wilson gets a chance in the box, and if he's up for it, I think he will. He just needs 1 or 2, and he'll take at least 1. To be fair, but it's. I mean, we've played West Ham and Brighton, who were fighting relegation. Beat 1, lost 1. It's going to be a long day. I think I'll be optimistic, and I'll say 1-1.
That's not enough goals. I'm going to go
1-1. No, 1-1. But then the attacking performances are going to be horrendous. I mean, we're going to have
What's the
goals
theme?
missed.
What's the theme for this episode this evening? Hope will kill you, Matt. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, let's call it 2-2. We'll call it 2-2. A couple of goalkeeper blunders as well. Why not?
I said 3-2 to Spurs.
3-2.
I will never ever say that my team will lose. So when, like, even though I know that, I'll at least give them the draw. So probably my heart. It's just wearing my heart on my sleeve. I'll never say they'll lose.
Nick, your prediction's an interesting one because there's yet to be a draw in this season's fixtures. So that's.
Really,
I mean, if you want to make some money, put that down on paper. Wonga.
Yeah.
Yes, the Spurs is a difficult one. Eh? Like I remember was it last year when Spurs? Last year Newcastle they beat Man City.
Yeah. No, we beat Man City. I think the season before, but we beat Spurs away from 1-0. Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, and that time they beat Man City, they played well, you know. And but now, I'm gonna say, I really don't know.
Are you
He's
kidding
already
me, bro?
laughing. Yeah, he's already laughing. Look, Matt's wondering. He's like, surely it's not just me who sees my team's gonna walk over Newcastle. Surely that's what he's thinking. I don't know. I'm leaning obviously.
I see Shaqiri has scored, eh?
Shaqiri.
Yeah, you guys, your League Cup game, yeah.
Yeah, lovely. That's my man. Big calves, Shaqiri.
I haven't forgot about that guy.
Yeah, shame.
So
I showed
Wonga,
you.
you think we're gonna win?
I don't take it out the bag. I say 1-0 to Newcastle.
Oh, there we go. I like that one.
Yeah. I think I'm going to lean with the draw. I'm going to go with the draw as well.
That prediction is so tainted by the Arsenal shirt he's wearing. You know, I wouldn't say that's the
We even have comments here from people saying that Newcastle's going to win.
Not just people. Savannah Soul, man. She knows her shit. Come on now.
We've had someone to Spurs as well. Blash Mac. Shout out.
All right. We're going to move on. Man City.
What's your
versus
prediction,
Leicester.
Claudio? What's your
I
prediction?
said a draw. 1-1. I'm with the 1-1. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
I know, like, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to sound like a little bit of a hypocrite. It all depends if Gareth Bale brought his 9-9 or his driver to the training ground to show them.
He won't play it, Frank.
Yeah. So no, I think it's going to be 1-1. We're going to go. Let's talk Man City versus Leicester. We've got Leicester who are scoring goals, but they're also conceding. We've got Man City who did win. You could argue, according to Sello and Matt's eyes, convincingly. What do you guys think? This is up for grabs. They are playing at home, Man City.
Man City 3-1.
Yeah, City are going to win it. I think Leicester have had a good start, but they're still not going to beat Man City.
I don't see losing.
I think Leicester will score.
I see Leicester winning it. I see Leicester 100% competing for it, especially after the City's performance. I see Leicester. And Brendan Rodgers this week, you can see the team that he played in that. He played. They said he changed all 11. He knows what he's coming against. Brendan Rodgers, I do not put it past him to beat City. It's a draw. Where they're playing actually?
At
Etihad.
At the Etihad.
Yeah.
But there's no fans there. So yeah,
But
I don't put it
never
past.
made a difference for City, so there's never.
Yeah, I don't put it past. It's a draw. I say a draw or Leicester City.
Oof. You never know. I don't know. I see City winning a couple of games in the next couple of weeks, to be honest with you. I don't see them. I think they're just going to be like a steam train, to be fair.
Look, I'm not convinced with City at the back.
Me too.
And you know what is interesting was that Leicester City scored 4 goals and not one of them was scored by Vardy, which means, and I think there were different goal scorers. So goals are coming around. They're all contributing. It's just whether or not they're going to be good enough at the back. And it depends if De Bruyne, doesn't get injured. I mean, I told you guys Sergio Aguero is out again. And I said that guy never has a full season. And without him and without De Bruyne, it is harder for them to score goals. I mean, Foden did chip in, but yeah, I think it's going to be a 1-goal margin. I don't think it's going to be City running away with it. So let's say 2-1 maybe to City.
Yeah. It'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good game. Barring the Liverpool Arsenal game, it's probably the next best, I reckon.
Yeah. And let's move on to that game. Let's move on to the Liverpool Arsenal game. Wonga. Do you think they've got enough?
Look, Arsenal, even during the Cups, when they beat Man City and was the FA Cup final, then they beat Liverpool in the Community Shield. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, that's what it looked like. Arsenal, I think they did okay in the game. Yeah, but when I saw Liverpool against Chelsea, yeah, it's the same frustrating thing. You just don't know how the hell to get past that Liverpool defense. They looked solid. They looked very, very solid. Looked like you could see that they're not conceding a goal in this game, and you just have to accept that fact. And that's what I see with the Arsenal game coming up. And you saw the way Mane was pressing. He saw that there was a keeper. Kepa's not too sure about himself as well in the squad, and they were pressing him heavy. And he picked out that opportunity, got that goal. And Mane does that against Arsenal, possibly could happen. That doesn't even have to press the goalkeeper. There's this one pass that always happens where it's going from the right back or the centre back to the goalkeeper, coming down to the centre defensive mid, which is Xhaka in the middle of the field. I think if they pinch that thing, I mean, obviously you are ahead of goal, and I can see Liverpool doing that once in the game. And if Liverpool score,
I think in my opinion, and I agree with you, Wonga, like if, Arteta also has to be he needs to be a bit smart here. If he's going to be gung-ho and he wants to play the way he plays, it might be, and he might need to just put his pride aside and shut up shop a little bit and maybe play a bit more, in the opposition's half. They've got good ball players, but played in the middle third and the final third. I don't see why you need to, against arguably one of the best pressing teams in the world. I think it's suicidal, to be honest with you. I just don't see the point. I mean, you've got a chance if you're limiting anything at the back, and if you're just going to force it. So I'd like to think with his sort of experience working at a Man City, he would maybe have that sort of insight to make a decision like that. But I'm excited to see, if they are going to just be brazen enough to just play the ball out the back. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I don't know what you think, Claudio. I mean, are you confident or what?
I think Jurgen Klopp's history with Arsenal is a good one. He doesn't tend to lose games. I think the game that they lost in the Community Shield was a bit of an anomaly. It was one of those that they conceded early. The players weren't really up to speed, like Sello mentioned with regards to City's game last week. So it's and if anything, I think he's just going to use that as motivation for them to come at Arsenal strong. It's going to be a good test for Arteta. But to what you're saying, I think he's going to play like he's been playing. He's going to sit deep. He's going to try and deny them space. Yeah. He's going to try and get them to play out from the back because they did that in the Community Shield. So building their confidence with Gabriel there, they might be a little bit more confident. Yeah. But yeah, I think for me, this is very tough, guys. I'm not used to being in the championship or in the champion position. So like we used to being underdogs. But, that's why we always kind of look at the game with one eye open going, yes, we're going to win. And then always go like, well, we are Liverpool. But now we are Liverpool with Thiago in it. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a 3-1 to Liverpool. I think Arsenal will score because they've got that in their makeup. I think Aubameyang on his day can also be unplayable. And Liverpool, depending on who they start at the back, we're not 100% just yet. So I think, there will be goals. But if Thiago plays, oh my goodness, there's just going to be so much control from Liverpool's end.
But yeah, with all that also, I think even what I said as well, playing the keeper, we also there's a bit of diciness there. But also, I mean, if you look at the way Arsenal beat Man City and Liverpool in those friendlies, whatever. Well, FA Cup final wasn't one. They actually scored. Their goals came from errors in those teams' defenses, and that was as a result of Arsenal pressing as a team together. Yeah. And that was a huge criticism I had of them the season before, is that they weren't pressing. They were literally waiting for everything to come to them. And they look like they're actually getting more out of pressing. So yeah, you actually might see a goal from them as well.
It depends, dude. If you look at the left-hand side where you're playing Saka's a great player. He's a young player. He doesn't track back like he should. He does get carried away and he travels up the field and he takes forever to get back. And that's why you guys conceded against West Ham on the weekend, was your left-hand side. So I wonder, I mean, they're obviously going to be a bit deeper. They can't afford to make that sort of mistake against Liverpool. Otherwise, the Salah's going to chow you. Sello?
No, I see Arsenal scoring a goal, but I'm not sure if it'll be 1-1 or 2-1. So either Liverpool win 2-1 or it'll be 1-1. I'm not sure, man. I think I can see a goal from Willian actually. He had a bit of a quiet game against West Ham, but I think he'll be up for the occasion. He always plays well in bigger games, but I still feel that Liverpool played so well against Chelsea, man. Like literally, that was the Liverpool of last season. So I'll just say 2-1. Also because Liverpool are playing at home. So 2-1 to Liverpool.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's goals in the game. I think Arsenal don't have Kepa in goal, which is going to make a difference. He did you guys a good favour in the Chelsea game. The Liverpool, we know how Klopp is. You would have seen the fixture list when it came out. You would have known these 2 weeks so early in the season would be hugely important psychologically for to retain the crown. So he would have been planning for these 2 games from the beginning. And so I do think Liverpool are going to pull it off, but I reckon Arsenal are going to get a goal or 2. It's going to be 3-2 or 2-1, but it's going to be a tight game. But I do think Liverpool will come out on top.
Yeah.
All right, there we have it, guys. That's the weekend predictions, and I think that's the show for Goallounge today. So thank you for joining us for episode 3. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me again today. We'll see you hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. But yeah, we'll chat. Let's do another game. And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Peace.
Cheers, guys.
I'm just going to end this. Oh, yes. Wait. One more question. Oh, Sello's on. We got a question here. Can we see the squad of Goallounge doing the version of Jerusalem? Let's play it.
Tomorrow.
Let's play the music. Come on. Let's see it. Wonga's coming.
I'm out.
Come on, lads.
No way.
Okay, I think it's time to end this. All right, cheers.
Rebellion is in.
Wonga, you're done. Where's the done?
No ways, yo. My family would have me.
Oh, you guys literally just watching me dance. Okay, this is not happening. All right, cheers.